I thank you, everybody, for tuning in here. I don't know just how long this meeting will be. Frankly, I don't think it'll be very long, to be honest with you. But as some of you know, we've been embarking on the last 2 years, Megan, maybe, of this update of our farmland protection plan. This board has been involved. What's that? The less? And this board has been involved with it across that time, and will continue to be involved in it. And it frankly, I'll speak personally right here now. I've had maybe 4 different opportunities to read through parts of it. And of course, at previous meetings, we've had some discussion on it. I haven't had a chance myself to sit down and read the entire thing, because about the time this draft hit the presses is about the time we got pretty busy on the farm. And I know personally, I would really like the opportunity to be able to sit down and read through it and make more detailed notes, which probably is not going to occur until after the 1st of October for me. But at any rate, something did come to our attention, wording on one part of this the other day, and I thought it would be good to at least open some discussion on some of that wording. And I fully expect at the end of this meeting that this will still be in draft form. It'll still be a living document and not a final document. But I guess that's the way I look at this meeting and some of the comments. And I welcome any other board members' comments on what we hope to accomplish here today.
Yeah, I had a couple other sort of news and updates things that I wanted to do super quick at the beginning.
Yep.
That's okay. Anybody
You
else?
want to do that first, Megan? You want to get to that first?
Yep. Can you guys see my screen?
I can see something up there about Casanova, FPIG.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, just a couple quick news and updates regarding farmland protection conservation easement projects. As most of you know, NIALT is without staff right now, so we're sort of in a funky position, not having our primary land trust to work with on FPIG projects, and we've got at least a half a dozen farms that are still trying to find partners. So with the help of Cornell and Jenny, reached out to Casanova Preservation Foundation, who did the Gianforte project with us a few years back, because they had some land in Manlius that was part of their project. So we actually had a meeting with them, and I had a follow-up. Jenny had a meeting, I had a follow-up discussion with them. And they are going to take a look at possibly working on the Gridley or Spicer projects. They don't know, she hasn't discussed it with her board yet, whether it completely fits with what they're gonna do, but we had an initial discussion about what resources we could bring to the table to help offset some of their resource limits, and possibly if we had any financial assistance, so they could maybe bring someone on staff on a contract basis to execute a project for us. So we just had that initial discussion, sort of promising, interesting at the least. So we'll keep you posted on that, but if anybody's got anybody that could fill in that gap at NIALT, that would be amazing. Put the word out. Any questions about that? At some point in the near future, we're going to have to talk about whether we should do a solicitation this fall, given the fact that we don't have NIALT right now and we don't have an open funding round. There's no money available right now until they announce a new round. So I was thinking our next meeting, we could spend some time on that.
I had a farmer call me the other day. He caught just the end of a sound bite. Maybe this is what he's referring to. Was this on the news the other day about awarding?
Yep. So Governor
Hochul, New York, or in other words, it was kind of old news.
Yeah, they announced the Marshfield farm on Monday, which we are sort of already knew had already been awarded, but the official announcement has now come out. So $764,000 to protect the Marshfield farm, which is 288 acres. So yay there. Yeah, so if you've got farms that are interested, send them my way, send them to CCE, they're helping me out and doing some of that farmer outreach to get familiar with the program. We've been working with a couple of farmers. We had a workshop a couple months ago and have been working on site plans with, I think, 4 farms right now. So we're trying to get ahead of things and get them ready to do pre-apps. So we've got a couple in the hopper, but just not sure how formally we want to do things until we have somewhere to send them. So it's a thing. So I figured we'd talk about that in early fall once we get back together. Maybe we have some more clarity on when more money or more NIALT is coming. But I just wanted to give that quick update. Has anybody got any questions on FPIG?
Well, just a quick backing up, Megan, does this mean that Marshfields won't see that money until they get staffed at NIALT? In
Well,
other words, this thing can't move forward without that vehicle, that piece of it. Is that correct?
that's potentially correct. Yeah. So they've submitted the state application, they've been awarded the funding, but now it's a good 12-month process to execute the easement. So without the NIALT staff, full-time staff person in place, I don't know whether the rest of the NIALT board is identifying any resources to execute these projects or what their plan is. I haven't talked to anybody there about what their short-term plan is while they look for new staff. But yeah, you might be right.
Wow,
But at least the funding's in place.
that's a real Achilles heel in this whole program.
It really is. Yeah, so yeah, we'll get back to you on that one. And yeah, the other thing that Governor Hochul did a press release on this week was that they're kicking off a statewide listening tour to address the future of farming in New York State. So listening sessions across the state to talk about the future of farming. I don't really know much about it, but they started in Long Island. They have one set up in the Binghamton area next. I haven't heard about one in central New York yet, but they said they're going to be scheduling more. So I'll let you know if I hear anything about that. If anybody else knows anything and wants to participate, let us know. Pass it on. But I thought that was interesting. Supportive.
Can municipalities be the third party, take the place of NIALT and acquire conservation easements and do that work?
Yeah.
Yes, if they have the resources and bandwidth and desire to do all that work and the expertise to do that work. It's a heavy lift and it takes a lot of practice to get good at it. So while we love considering it, I feel like it's a very daunting thing for a municipality to take on. But like Skinny Atlas is probably the best equipped because they actually do this in some respects. They hold easements and have the monitoring in place for the easements that they have, but other municipalities don't generally have this kind of thing happening.
How about at the county level?
I mean, it's always gets tossed around as a possibility. Again, it's a resource thing, but we do have sort of the legal backing of the county, so that in terms of their resources, we'd have to see what they've got, but it's an option that if we get more pressed, we might need to explore in more depth, or creating a different organization, or somehow providing support to existing organizations. Otherwise, if we could provide financial support to keep some of these places viable, like NIALT. Yeah, we've got to toss around the options again.
So, Jenny and I were talking about this past week because, like Ed said, this has always been kind of the weak link in our whole process of trying to secure farmland. And as far as kicking around the idea of what we could actually do with municipalities, and I think the learning curve is an important factor in this, that if you do a couple of these a year, you probably get good at, you build relationships with ags and market and the people at the state, you learn, start talking your language. The one question I would have is NIALT with, Amy Only, when she was there, she was also representing the interest of the easement holder. And I wonder how it would work if we had like, let's just say the town of Manlius chose to subcontract with somebody, or whether it was CCE or Soil and Water, some entity within the county did it. I wonder how it would work if somebody is doing the lifting, but the town isn't fully engaged in the process, how it would work out for them as ultimately the easement holder. If they would ultimately understand the responsibility, and when these easements are negotiated, sometimes there's a lot of give and take with the process. Sometimes the farms are backing things in and backing things out a little bit. I mean, otherwise it seemed like that would be an elegant solution, but I'm just kind of wondering how it would work. As far as keeping the municipality fully engaged with that you're going to own this when it's done. And what that means.
Yeah, I think the ultimate holding of the easement, I think, is fine. The town of Camillus actually holds the Hudson easement. And AFT does the monitoring for that. But it's executing that state application. It's a huge lift to do that state application. It's a huge 12-month process to close that easement. That's the part that I worry about.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that was the case, and I'm really kind of curious how that whole process worked with, you said, our trust is the one that actually did the process, and then Camillus is actually the easement holder.
Yeah, it was a convoluted one. I don't know if Lee knows more about it. But yeah, so
I don't think the town of Camillus is really too excited about holding that easement,
I
right?
don't think so either.
Because I think the town of Camillus is probably going to get sued. So
Yeah,
just being honest with you.
yeah.
So that's going to put a whole wet blanket on things too. So
Yeah.
going forward.
No, Lee,
But
you
yeah, ultimately AFT bought that property, so that it needed somebody else to actually be the easement holder, because you couldn't, until they sold it to a new farm. So once so town of Camillus held the easement, AFT was the owner, and then once it was sold to a new farm, then the monitoring went over to AFT again. It was just sort of in between owners at the time, so AFT sort of filled in the blanks.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you're on mute, Brian. All right. So yeah, so we'll do some research and get back as a discussion item on this stuff for the next meeting. But just wanted to mention those quick items. So moving on, if everybody's okay with it, to the Farmland Protection Plan update. A couple things I wanted to go over the comments we got from Ag and Markets. So we just got those back from Jeff Kehoe at Ag and Markets. Go over this edit that Brian mentioned, and then go over sort of the remaining schedule. So if everybody can see that, this is actually the email text from Jeff Kehoe from Department of Ag and Markets, who loved our plan. Yay. So just some high points. The plan exceeds their grant expectations, come a long way since 1997. It's professional, full of appropriate content, readable from the spectrum of stakeholders, good participation, one of the most in-depth analysis of ag lands to be protected. Yay. Yeah, so some good knowledgeable representation from the plan. Yeah, so I think, yeah, they're very happy with the plan, obviously, and thought we did a great job on it. Two items to consider for the next update, which I've already sort of talked to them a little bit about. One is food systems planning and urban ag emerging as concerns. I shared with him the food plan CNY, which he wasn't really aware of. So I sent that to him, and I think that sort of addressed that comment to a certain extent. Oh, you've got a food systems analysis already done. Great. And then, so his other comment was the concerns of new beginning and veterans farmers often can reinforce other issues related to land access, affordability, and hybrid pursuits like agritourism. So we touched on it in the plan, but future narratives may be able to better incorporate these themes and reinforce their importance. So as I do a last look through the plan and do final edits, I'll keep an eye on this item and see if there's anything I can think of to incorporate. If you guys have anything to offer as you look at it one last time, that would be great too. But yeah, but in a nutshell, it's great to see another quality plan from EDR. I thought they did a good job. Yeah, and expect nothing less from the various collaborators and the Ag and Farmland Protection Board. So yay. So any questions about Ag and Markets feedback? Okay. Yeah, so moving on to the Camillus issue. Is everybody aware of the Monroe Road manure storage facility being proposed by the Horgan Farm? I think everybody's aware now. Yeah, so Channel 9 covered a public meeting. It's been super controversial. And one of the people that made a comment to Channel 9 mentioned that even the county doesn't like manure pits or CAFOs, and she cited a piece of our plan that spoke to that. So real crux of this meeting is to speak to this one particular issue. So up on the screen here is within a summary of the strengths and opportunities and issues and challenges around each of the 5 goal or each of the topic areas. So ag and the natural environment was one of our topic areas. So the last issue within that was this statement. CAFOs can produce more manure than is used by a single operation. Lagoons as storage are undesirable when manure is applied too frequently or in too large a quantity across an area. Nutrients can run off, leach into water bodies, leading to public health or environmental issues. Obviously, this isn't the best worded bullet we've ever done. I apologize. Yeah, it was originally put in there by the consultant team, and then it was also tweaked once, I think, based on some comment we got back. But obviously something was lost in translation and open to misinterpretation as it was done publicly. Yay. So I wanted to open it up to you guys to chat about it a little bit, see if you want to make any changes to it. The other thing I just did want to mention is that we also have a venture proposal. One of those 5 venture proposals that we put together is an ag waste stream strategic plan. And within that is looking at food waste and non-food ag waste, which that non-food waste would include manure, oil, silage, plastics, fertilizer, pesticides, that kind of stuff. The approach to the strategic plan was defined as approach to decrease ag waste in landfills and methane in the atmosphere, increase recycling of paper and plastic from producers, and increase processing and composting of ag waste, which included manure. So it's just a plan to do a plan, but it mentioned anaerobic digesters as a potential solution to possibly look at, and talked about maybe setting forth in this plan some countywide waste reduction goals. So that's another item for discussion that wasn't mentioned in the news, but you might want to touch on as well.
A quick question on that one. As long as we have that in there, can we just take the whole bullet out? Does it mean the fact that it's actually
This one?
concentrate? Yes.
Yeah.
The fact that we didn't even get the name of CAFO correctly is
I
kind of
know.
embarrassing.
Very.
And then the other thing is, I don't know, I didn't see, did Mark join us, Tucker?
No, he was unable to
Okay.
attend. He sent a couple of written comments, but he's happy to talk to anybody
No, because I
offline
thought
about any of this. Yeah,
given the fact that he is actually in that space, it would have been good to hear from him.
yeah,
I did talk to a couple of dairies that are on the large CAFO list. They said basically everybody has to be regulated. It's just on the small guys, they don't really enforce it. But they have such high regulations, especially with those manure storage pits. I don't even know why. I mean, I totally missed it. I mean, I'm like Brian on it. We're gotten so busy that I haven't been able to read the whole thing, and I certainly did not read this part and didn't see it.
Yeah.
But my question is, there's certainly from when I sent this statement to a couple of dairy guys, I got mixedly nice responses back. So, and since we have that whole other section, the one that you just mentioned in there, I'm wondering if it would be good to just leave it out. And if anything, if we need to do anything, refer to that section as that's something that is being looked at under separate heading.
Kay, what did you mean earlier when we got the thing wrong on the bullet? Maybe I wasn't following that.
Well, it says in the bullet that it's a combined animal feed operation rather than a concentrated animal feed operation.
Okay,
So that's the official term for CAFO, I've been told.
okay, and you're probably right on that. My only thought is, you got two things that jump out at me. The cat's already out of the bag. We pull this bullet out now, it's gonna start a bigger storm someplace else, I think. I think we need to maybe reword it, because if you read this, and I'm no expert on CAFO, but when that whole plan came out years and years ago, I always thought it was explained to me that any operation had to have enough acreage per animal to match the waste. So, yeah, maybe it can produce more today than I can spread until next week, but they've got enough land, or supposed to have enough land, to match the waste stream. So I think we need to maybe educate ourselves on that and then retool how this is written.
Yeah, I think
Because-
that's, I think
To me,
you're
right now, it
absolutely-
reads, it can produce more than used by a single operation. Well, that's against what the whole intent of the letter of the law was, I thought. But I'm no expert, so I don't know.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, I took just to put this one up here, I took a stab at sort of rewording each sentence. I don't know if that helps you guys.
yeah.
And I also took a stab at adding a couple paragraphs in the narrative in the waste and recycling section and the profile, but yeah,
I just want to, Megan, I just want to point
Yeah.
out to Ed's point. I think if you intend to process the waste on land, you have to have enough land. But if you have a chicken farm, you don't have to have so many square feet of land per chicken. You might take that chicken waste and turn it into fertilizer and sell it to another farm. You see what I mean? Like they're not all the same. And then there's other CAFOs that have nothing to do with farming. And I hate to even bring this up, but there's like puppy farms in New York State where they raise animals for research purposes.
Well,
And
who's
they're
actually,
CAFOs as well, and they don't have any land for disposal either. They just dispose of it in the landfill. So I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of CAFOs. Dairies are just one of them, and so it's a big realm. There's a lot going on there. So just kind of keep that in mind as we discuss it.
quick question back to you on that one. Are they all actually listed as CAFOs? And it is my understanding that CAFOs are regulated by ag and markets.
That's right.
No,
they're
well,
regulated by the DEC. more so.
And DEC mostly. Yeah.
Or yeah,
DEC regulates the CAFOs, and that's who regulates them. And they're the ones that came up with, the combined animal feeding operation. That's not what New York State came up with that. Department, as far as I'm concerned, DEC did. I mean, I have a huge problem with just even that wording, but that's the state for us. If Holkel wants to do anything for pro-agriculture or pro-dairy, that whole statement right there should be changed. Makes you like you're a huge corporate whatever, and we aren't. We're family farms, and mainly in New York State. I don't think there's very many corporate farms here.
Well,
Dave, hold on a second.
go ahead.
That is right. In that pulling this is it could have some bad optics. I also think that what this presently says, it feels like an overreach to me of who this committee is, what it does. Now, if you could state it, in the context of this section, state it as a challenge without opining in any direction, that's the move. If this comes out with a sentence or a few words, so be it and leave it. But, I mean, since when are we?
Brian, your microphone, I don't think is working.
Since when are we setting or making policy? Is that better?
Yes.
That's better.
Yeah,
Can
it's
you recap?
laptop.
Yeah.
Did you hear the rest of it? Did somebody?
If you could.
No, I
recap,
didn't.
that would be
Maybe you
great.
need to start over.
Okay, so I think what I was saying is right. If we pull this, the optics might be bad. But I think there's a huge opportunity to pull back from what's being said and just simply note the issue as a challenge. Not our challenge, not our responsibility. It's governed elsewhere. Let's, to Lee's point, stay out of, farm business. This isn't a regulatory body. This, we're conserving farmland and doing our part to do that. So it just seems like an overreach to me. And if we should just retreat as far as we can from what's being said. That's my 2 cents.
So if I can,
Craig, you're on mute.
Why don't we put in there that concentrated feeding confined animal feeding operations are regulated by New York State, not Onondaga County, not the town of Camellus, not any of us, or it's regulated by
Yep.
also, I don't know who else.
Yeah.
I think
There's,
you got it already written down there pretty well.
yeah, regulated by New York State, required to participate in a.
Megan,
What's that?
Okay.
Megan, could you restore that previous?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this, I'm not saying this is a final form, but I think that because CAFOs are an important part of ag, we need to address it somehow. But a whole different approach is to have it as a, which some of these bullet points attempt to do, is describe manure as a resource. It's, it needs to be managed as a good nutrient source. And it's not just the amount of acres. That's been the crux of our argument or our discussion here so far. But it's the timing of those nutrients and the timing on those acres. And properly constructed manure storage allows farmers to use that nutrient source at the proper time, at the proper rate, on the proper crops and land. And so they actually, when I first read this, the word undesirable to me is totally out of place.
Right.
Because this is a management tool used to
Correct.
make proper use of that nutrient source.
Correct.
And so I don't think the bullet points in red here are way off base. I think it's a better attempt with this bullet point to try to explain the usefulness of storing of manures and the use of manures.
I mean, I agree with Brian on this one, but I think this undesirable, given the fact that at least in the dairy, the CAFOs that are there have to have them, and they have to go through professional engineering diagrams and huge amounts of money and soil testing and stuff like that. I think it mutes the point of the undesirable because it's regulated and it's mandated for at least some operations, maybe not all, but certainly the medium and larger dairy operations, from the way I've been explained it to, they have to have those.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, can I jump in here, sir? I don't even know if anybody can hear me. I keep pushing the wrong button.
We
I can hear you, Craig.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Skeel, this is a draft form. I submit we can absolutely yank the whole thing right out. It's not helping our cause. It's not helping the dairy guys. 2, These things are required. That would be the extent of what I would put in this bullet point. Your thoughts?
Craig, could you tell me exactly what's required? You said these things are required. Could you just
Yeah, by
Down on it.
DEC in the CAFO regulations.
That's right. Right in
So
that first.
That's
right in
all we
that-
need to acknowledge to the public. We can absolutely take that whole bullet point out because even the public acknowledged
this-
this is a draft form.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But they
but again,
required, so,
specifically,
and
you're
the other
correct, but
thing, manure is a nutrient, not waste. We need to refer it to what it is.
yes, and again, I'm saying what exactly is required? The lagoons, the storage? Be
6
specific.
months worth of storage is required by, who's regulating the CAFOs? It's DEC, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right,
They want a minimum of 6 months of storage. So these
Okay.
things have to be built, which are, by the way, maybe we need to acknowledge, they are monitored. There are monitoring holes after they are built to find out, yes or no, are they leaking? And at the other point, to make everybody aware, after these things are installed, which there are several in Onondaga County, the public doesn't even know they exist because we just cut the truck traffic down on the weekends tremendously.
I think we're kind of the leftover is that big manure pond that spilled over up on the Black River up in the North Country.
Correct. That
And-
was an
and-
improperly designed structure.
Yep, and I've been told by a couple of the dairy guys that I talked to is after that happened, they all had to get recertified, re-engineered, and almost all dairies rebuilt their lagoons so that it was cheaper than trying to get the old ones recertified.
You could be, I know you could be correct. I am not an expert, but there were a lot of changes after that spill on the Black River. You were right.
If I might make a suggestion, and I'm kind of with Craig as far as like, this is a draft form. And I think we're still at liberty to write this however we need. And the other thing is, I'm not sure how this draft form got used in an argument in Camillus when it's a draft form, but setting that aside, maybe another way to approach this and acknowledge it is we know that there is a challenge with regards to managing animal nutrients because of the conflict of land use, particularly with residents. So, and we've been experiencing this across the county because besides remote manure lagoons that are away from the farm, we've always had conflicts with actually the disposal of nutrients in the spreading when it happens. So I don't know if we just simplify this statement and give a nod to the fact that this actually is indeed a challenge with agriculture as we wind up with more people building houses that are budding croplands where the animal nutrients are placed. And maybe just kind of simplify this bullet and acknowledge that's a challenge with agriculture. It is.
So we have that bullet already in a couple different ways and within this section and others. We don't say it in relation to CAFOs and manure lagoons specifically, but we do speak to that point already.
Okay, well, when I read that statement, number one, we got the wording wrong, but also it's ill-defined right after that in the next sentence. So, if we were going one way, I would either greatly decrease the verbiage we have in there or eliminate it altogether if we've already addressed the issue someplace else.
Well, it's not up for us to whether we decide a waste lagoon is undesirable. That's on the DEC and the regulatory
Yeah.
people. So we
Absolutely.
just have to educate the people what manure is. Hey, it's fertilizer. And it has to be stored based on the regulatory from the DEC and let the people go to them to get their answers.
Yeah, so the other option, another option we could do is, so this is what it looks like. We could put something in the strengths and opportunities to talk about the beneficial aspects to animal manure serving as natural fertilizer in the land to go with something and the issues and challenges as well. And as I mentioned, I did a whole couple paragraphs to try and sort of explain CAFOs and the role that animal waste, animal manure plays as a beneficial nutrient resources and how it's managed and regulated and all that kind of stuff. So I was going to add this into the other text. If anybody wants to review that, I could mail that out or email that out to everybody to take a look at that.
Somewhere in all that combined animal feeding operation, that thing right at the bottom you had in that paragraph, it's all regulated by the DEC, and that's the end of the conversation. It's
So
just,
do we want to put anything in the issues and challenges piece? That's where this statement.
I'd put in there, they are required.
yeah, they're required.
Challenge.
Yeah, you don't want to say the.
So
undesirable.
manure storage lagoons are required to
Yes.
manage animal manure from livestock and dairy operations kind of thing.
Yep, from
Just leave it at
livestock dairy.
And didn't CAFO get established from the federal level too? Am I correct in saying that?
It probably did, probably at one point, and then it was passed down to the state to come up with their own plans of how they were gonna do it.
That's right. It originated with the EPA.
Yeah,
That's what I
clean,
thought.
probably the clean water.
Because of the single water source law back in the 80s, because I
Yeah,
got caught on that having a business in Cortland. If you sat near a single aquifer source, they came to town, you didn't know when, but you better have everything in order. And I think that's how this whole thing got started.
yeah,
Makes no difference. At the end of the day, we just got to get the word undesirable out there that they're, in fact, they're required. And hey, they're regulated, they're highly regulated and tested, or whatever we want to put in there, by the
Yep.
New York State DEC. They wouldn't have had a leg to stand on, or even would have written or read that statement if we'd have had it worded that way, probably. Because it would have shot him in the foot. Lee,
yes,
you're closest to this. Would you say this is more or less like a NIMBY, like not in my backyard issue for the
Yes.
people in Camillus?
yes, yes,
It's kind of like solar panel farms.
yep.
We got one going on here in Pompey.
We like the green space, and that's what we came there for.
Manure helps keep it green.
Yep, but there's been people, just same thing, people have moved in there over the years. It goes back to that whole issue on Monroe Road up there is when Oots wanted to buy the farm from my uncles, my father, the residents didn't want 500 to 800 homes and condos built there. So pick what you want, and this is what they got. I mean, they got open space.
That's how that 500 acres leave came to be agriculture.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, was preserved because the town of Camillus refused to let housing be developed there.
Interesting.
So, yep. And I didn't make a dime off of it, even though in a public hearing that Lee Hudson lined his pockets. Oh.
So that home you got in the caravan is,
Yeah.
doesn't count? Nice try, Lee.
Yeah. So anyways,
Plus,
so
I mean,
back to this. So what do you, so Meg, you got? is
Yeah,
this
so I
what-
just tried to take the sentiment and put it into a simple statement.
Mhm.
Manure storage lagoon structures are required by DEC regulations for CAFOs to safely and effectively store manure as a critical nutrient source for cropland.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
That'll
And I
work
think-
better than what's there.
And we stand on the fact that, as Craig pointed out and a few people, it was a draft form document and it was
Still
something that
is.
got missed. We can't, it's not up to us to say desirable or undesirable. That's the actual storage vehicle or device is up to the engineers and the DEC.
They are highly regulated, that's for sure. Hmm.
They should be more worried about not the structure, but the 2 or 3 days of smell they're gonna experience when they spread it.
More and more of these big guys are going to direct injection. They're seeing the benefit. It costs more to get started, but especially with these satellites, that's why they put them, the satellite storage, which is what this one is, that when they give it a lot of thought, so they can do most of it with a drag line and knife it right in.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what they plan on. That's what I understand they plan on doing.
Well, and
Okay.
eventually they may be forced to go there, Craig, just based on new environmental laws or nuisance laws of the smell.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're right about that.
Well, it also leads to less phone calls to the farmer.
Yeah, for sure.
So are you proposing this in red would replace everything that's in bold?
That was a option that I heard.
I get a motion along those lines?
I'll make a motion for that.
I get a second
I'll second it.
discussion.
So we're just so I'm clear, the column on the left, we're not even gonna mention the word CAFO.
We're gonna delete that entirely. So we would delete that and replace it with red.
Okay, and so let me just look at something here a minute if I could, under issues and challenges. So we're gonna put that
Yeah.
in the bullet under issues and challenges, and we're gonna. So the issue is manure storage, but construction. Yeah, I guess that should work.
I'm
They're
trying to find.
required by the regulations,
Yeah,
required by New
maybe,
York State DEC.
yeah, and
And
maybe there, we should have something in there, management, a nutrient. It's really a nutrient management. That's. Yeah,
So
I can
Since-
wordsmith it a little bit more.
since this is going into challenges and issues, maybe we could just have a leading sentence that just says the management of animal manure
Yeah.
is a challenge given the increased size of farming operations and the distance to dispose. And then just go into the statement you got.
yeah.
Right, and that would explain why the farm's wanting to have to build a remote storage. vessel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but then we tell them up on top, hey, they're required and they're regulated by the DEC.
Oh,
I mean, these people maybe don't realize it, but they've been eating fertilized food from manure for their whole lives.
And it's probably better than all of the chemical fertilizer that they're probably even more so opposed to.
Exactly.
That
I
the
think you
price
gotta
is
put,
skyrocketing.
Megan, you gotta put an is after manure, I think.
Oh, yep.
I like how that word's better because it fits better into the title of
yeah,
issues and challenges.
yep.
Do we want a sentence at the end of that or not, that would just says the storage of And whether it's animal manures or manure nutrients, allows the farm to more effective, make better use of it. It's all about timing is my point.
Right.
If you can store it, you can time it to the best use instead of like, hey, let's go out every day and spread.
Well, not only does it make better use of it, but they cannot spread if you have certain rain amounts and certain other weather conditions and certain times of year and the whole 9 yards.
See, the idea with mentioning the timing, I think for the civilians, they just see this as a huge stockpile that you're
Yeah,
going to unleash all at once instead of something you can manage and time properly.
No,
right.
I mean, I agree. What I'm trying to say is I agree with you.
No, I know you are. I've just got to
Yeah.
put it in words. We got to put it in words.
Yeah.
And frankly, I got to get back to work. We got to stop this.
Yeah.
Yep.
About
Being as
Yes.
blunt as I can.
calibrated, calibrated application, store manure for calibrated application as a nutrient source. Is that good?
There's technology out there in our industry now that you could safely say that because our company and other companies have worked on systems to determine how much is being applied.
Yeah, I think that's worded.
Yeah.
I think that's worded pretty well. Any more discussion on that? And I'm not trying to jam something through, but
Yeah,
I've already beat the horse to death. I'm starting to remove his legs. So let's get this thing decided here.
Yep, I'm good with
I'll-
that.
Yeah, I like it this way.
I'm ready to vote for it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Do we need a new motion or can we stick with the old one?
No, we can stick with the old one here. Just
Okay.
through discussion, we modified it. One more call for any more discussion, any more comments on this, anybody? All in favor of inserting this wording, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? And, okay, so we'll adopt this wording and to replace the bold, the black bold letters. And I would still call this a draft.
Yes, I would agree
Yeah.
with that.
so are you guys okay with me making this edit and posting a new July 21st draft to the website with this updated language? As a draft.
Yeah,
Just
I'm okay
replacing the
with-
May draft with a July draft.
I'm okay with that, in capital letters with the word draft, because just what little
Yeah, I
reading,
might watermark the whole document, honestly.
a little bit of reading I had a chance to do this afternoon, I already found 3 or 4 typos and
Oh, yeah, I've got
It is
tons of stuff,
purely-
yeah.
it is purely a draft.
Yeah,
Brian, I don't want, you've already taken the horse's legs. I don't want you to take the tail, but just real quick, we've got just CAFO, the acronym. Do we need to type in the words?
yeah,
Concentrated-
I'll put the whole.
Okay, fair enough. I'm done. I'm out.
That would be helpful. That would
Yep.
be helpful. That would be
I'm
helpful.
out.
Okay, so I'm gonna post a new draft. When I post that new draft, I'll send you all a link. And if you guys want to keep reading when you have time, and I assume it sounds like we don't want to have another meeting until October.
Please.
Okay, so early October, we'll have a meeting to incorporate. So I'm gonna set a deadline of like September 15th for any of your last edits. I'll get all those edits to you in a final document for you guys to approve at the October meeting. And then we'll send that on to the ledge. So I'll give you guys a couple months to get through the whole thing.
Sounds like a plan.
Cool. Okay, I'm done.
Sweet corn
Alright.
ready yet, Brian?
Yep, we've been picking for about 10 days now. So,
Seriously, wow, that's good to know. Wow, that's good.
yeah.
Okay.
So any other business, anybody?
No.
How about a
Motion to-
motion to adjourn?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, Ed, second,
I'll
Second.
that, whatever.
Lee seconded. Okay, all in favor of adjourning? Aye.
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 Thanks everybody for tuning in on short notice.
Yep. Have a good summer, everybody.
Yep, we'll
Thank
talk to you
you.
later.
You too.
Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.